In my fictional setting, I speak of a being called the Apple Rock Kaiju, and I say that this being has a vast hatred for humanity, and that within it, if you take away its hatred, it has nothing left. And on the one hand, as the creator, I hate this being a lot. And on the other hand, I absolutely understand, having done to it what I have done to it to give it its towering hatred. I understand entirely, and I want to speak quickly just about the Apple Rock Kaiju, because there is, as I've stated, an entire universe called the Inside. We live on another universe called the Outside. Between these, when holes are rubbed between them, a razor's edge is formed, because there is static, it's not electricity, energy that forms as our two universes rub and bump against each other. This energy is what a razor's edge is formed of. When these two holes open, there is a snap inside of this limitless energy between them, and within this area, a sphere of differing sizes, there is a razor's edge formed. Now, about 7 billion years into the creation of this universe, one of these razor's edges was formed. Now, this energy is also a complete universe we cannot understand. For the beings within it, they are singular and alone, and yet they are also every other living creature. So you feel and think with them. You have a singular body, yet you are everyone and everything. There is no time, and yet you also can and will and do, but don't have to, experience things sequentially. It is a universe we cannot understand, but it has an entire ecosystem and ecology within it. And when our two universes, the inside, the outside, form this razor's edge with a snap, a 20,000 kilometer circumference sphere, 10,000 kilometers out and around, everything within it cut off from the outer universe. The first time and the only time that a being like the Kaiju has ever been caught. Never before and never after for the entirety of the life of this universe. The Kaiju within the sphere of energy, cut off from the rest of it, was watching in horror as suddenly, over a effective 10-minute period, every living creature within that universe burned to death. And, of course, the Kaiju, being all of them as well as itself, felt every living thing in its universe burn to death, as 30 to 40% of its own being and body, presence, and abilities also burned. And then every physical object that was not alive also burned, taking another 10 or 20% of the Kaiju down with it. And when it was done, effectively what was left of the Kaiju was left standing in agony and terror, unable to understand what had just happened, standing effectively on an infinite plane in a quantum slurry of ash that was everything its universe had been. And then before it can even comprehend this, those ashes begin to move, and they form an entire new and physical universe, something the Kaiju has never experienced. And during this process, it, a once limitless being, is finding its what remains of its burned and tormented body smashed and crushed into a physical form, a being that when it stands and fills only a physical city block, and only that with its 4 paws, head, tail, and body. And when it curls up, as it does, with its armor clinking around it, into the physical form of, well, a giant rock that looks like a Granny Smith apple, crushed into this physical form. Only 40% of what it had been in a limitless and powerful universe now smashed into this, while around it all is a physical universe, a sham, just a cruel parody of existence, just a wicked and cruel joke. And the kaiju forced to live in it. Never before and never since has a being of such power been caught. Are there more? Or are there none? Are there no more to be caught? Or have they just figured out how not to be caught? The kaiju is trapped in a physical form, and it hates this existence that it is forced to live in. Reality tried to kill the kaiju many times, until at last the kaiju sank its fangs into the arm of reality and locked its jaws. The kaiju will not die. The kaiju will die when it is ready to die, and it may never be ready. However, after its formation, when it was first offended and angry and frightened, it, now forced into a physical body, was forced to feed itself, but nothing that it ate would assuage the growing fire of hunger within it. It ate plants, animals, water, rocks, air, radioactives. Nothing would fulfill its hunger until these strange bipeds began to show up. And not just around the kaiju, but everywhere, on every layer, throughout the entirety of this razor's edge, the existence that it was forced to live in, where its universe had been burned. Everything that lived in it burned. The kaiju itself burned and forced into this horrific existence. All, it seemed, for these bipeds that now filled all of the razor's edge. But when the kaiju, out of desperation, ate some of them, that began to put out the fire of hunger within it. And so the kaiju eats these human beings. And that is what it needs to live. It has to fill its belly with all of these people just to survive. These verminous bipeds that have filled all of existence, that its universe was burned and destroyed to form. The kaiju will fill its belly with them. The kaiju will fill its belly by the 100, by the thousands, by the millions, for it is so much larger on the inside than it is on the out. And again, the kaiju will die when the kaiju is ready to die. And the kaiju has enough hate in it to last until the very, very end. of this universe, because hate is all it has left. Everything but its hatred was taken away and destroyed. The kaiju has nothing but hate within it. You take away its hate, it has nothing left.